Let's knit a thing. Oh, hi. Once you go sheep, you never go cheap.
Oh, hi! This is episode 15 of Soxcetera, a knitting podcast with me, Shannon. You can find me on Periscope and Ravelry as shannonfisher, and you can find me on Instagram. And you can find me on Instagram as Shannon Mariah. It has been Instagram for me today. So welcome if you're watching for the first time, and welcome back if you're returning. Thanks for being here with me. I just went on Periscope and had a little mini breakdown, which I knew I wasn't feeling great, and the title was, I Need a Pep Talk. But I didn't realize how badly I was feeling because I broke down into weepy tears a few times. So everyone who tuned into that, I'm not going to apologize for crying because I don't think you'd want me to, but I will say thanks for showing up and thanks for being kind about that. And I promise all of my periscopes have not been and will not be like that. But I have been periscoping lately. Emma and I just got back from a trip to Portland, and we periscoped while we're there. And we took a bunch of vlogging footage, so I'm going to insert that here so you can see a little bit of how our trip went together. So that was Portland. It was just a quick 2-night getaway for us. We took the train up and we took the train back. It was 8.5 hours one way. So 8.5 hours there and then 8.5 hours back. And I knit my little heart out, and Emma drew and read. And I listened to audio podcasts, and Emma listened to some of her jams. It was a really great trip, and I had so much fun with her. We travel well together. We've been sort of having some rough patches lately, and I just said to Steve I wanted to get away with her. And it's funny because it started off with a fight as soon as we got to the train station, and then we had another fight, I think, on the train. Then I don't think we did after that. She's just such a delight. If you caught her on any of my periscopes with you, you could probably see that immediately. She's just so full of energy and life, and she's just a really bright, fun, cheerful, inquisitive, thoughtful, kind kid, and I can't even believe that she's in my life because I love her so much. So we do have a Ravelry group for soxcetera. If you punch in soxcetera on Rav, you'll find it. And right now we have a blanket blitz cal happening from now until the end of May. And if you've ever, basically it's knitting with anything with a mini skein. People have surprised me and come up with new things that I didn't even think of. Someone's making a cowl. No, not a cowl. Someone is making what's the thing that goes around your shoulders? A shawl. Someone is making a shawl out of their yarn scraps and asked if they could join the Blanket Blitz Cal, and I said absolutely you can. So yeah, it's just about using up your scrappy yarn bits, whether that's in a mitered square blanket or making mini knits like mini socks and toques and sweaters, or if you're crocheting something with scrappy yarn. What else? Other things are people doing? I can't remember, but so it's going strong. There's like over 100 and some posts that people have shared on the hashtag thread on Instagram, and there's about the same amount on the Rav thread. So I'm going to be drawing from both the Instagram thread and the Ravelry thread, the chatter thread in Rav about the Blanket Blitz Cal. So yeah, basically use up your scrappy bits of yarn in any way that you choose. Share it on Instagram with the hashtag Blanket Blitz Cal, or come to the Rav group and share it there, and let's fawn over each other's gooey, yarny goodness. And basically, yeah, it's just, I wanted it to be really fun and accessible and easy for people to join along, and just something that would help us inspire each other to mostly work on our blankets. That's how this started for me, because I always want to work on my blanket, but I never make the time to do it. So I thought, what would inspire me to do it? And this is what has worked so far. So I hope it's helping you too. Feel a little bit tense, a little bit like I'm not myself. Like all of that I just did was kind of not real Shannon. So let's see if I can relax. And just be myself. Okay? Okay. We're going to move on to Shouty Shan. If you're just joining us for the first time, Shouty Shan is a segment where I talk about the ways that I'm learning about being a better human. And often it strongly relates to social justice issues. And sometimes it's just talking about plain old wonderful heart issues. And sometimes there's overlap between the two. So lately, a lot of the things that I have been talking about have had to do with privilege. And I've thrown around the word privilege a lot without really explaining it at all. And if you're not in a social circle where that's discussed much, maybe your eyes are glazing over, maybe you're feeling confused, maybe you're feeling frustrated. So I thought maybe I'd just, or maybe you're really interested and curious. So I thought maybe I'd take this segment to talk a little bit about privilege and what privilege means. So privilege, what is it? What am I talking about? So privilege is any unearned benefit or advantage that you have by nature of your identity. And there are lots of different kinds of privilege. So there can be race privilege, there can be class privilege, there can be able body privilege, there can be thin privilege. So I am going to do a little bit of reading from a couple of different articles. This is from one on everyday feminism called How to Talk to Someone About Privilege. And they say, I can't remember the name of the author, but I will share that in the show notes, which I do post show notes in my soxcetera Rav group if if I say anything that you want to know more about, you can go check those out under episode 15. So some folks get defensive about discussing privilege because they fear such a conversation will not address the real and powerful ways in which they do not have privilege. So they deflect by only talking about those things. But I'm not privileged. My family grew up poor. I'm not privileged. I'm living on welfare. I'm not privileged. I'm etc., etc. Just because we benefit from one form of privilege doesn't mean that we benefit from all forms of privilege. When we realize that, we can work together with people who share our privileges and those who don't to build something better. What we most need to stress in conversations about privilege is that this system doesn't just hurt the people who cannot boast one form of identity privilege or another. It hurts everyone. Until we understand that, we're not getting anywhere because the only people of privilege who will ever act to end the system are the ones acting strictly from paternalistic guilt. Take white privilege, for instance. White privilege is essentially a social construction whereby wealthy Europeans wanted to make sure they could consolidate their wealth by pitting poor people from Europe against poor Africans and indigenous people. White folks were made to feel better about themselves and were given privileges over people of color in order to divide the white proletariat. Similarly, male privilege may benefit men tremendously in certain ways, but in others, it restricts us into a tiny box of masculinity. I don't know about you, but I'm sick of trying to fit into my gendered box, the act like a man box. I want my gender expression to be free and independent of those aspects of masculinity that hurt men and women. These kinds of things. Violence is acceptable for solving problems. Boys don't cry. Men are the lords of the household. Men must know everything, even when they don't. So those are examples of how privilege is damaging to the privileged. So definitely men benefit from privilege, but it also means that, like this, I'm assuming male author is saying, it puts pressure on him to be a certain way, and when he's not, he's accused of not being manly enough or masculine enough. He's accused of being too girly. And these are ways that are damaging to him and to females. So the reason that you should care about privilege is because it does hurt everyone. Roxane Gay, who is an amazing author, she is a woman of color who writes some of the most amazing things I've ever read. If you haven't read her book, Bad Feminist, definitely put that on your list. I love that. It's a collection of essays, and it's beautiful and wonderful and changed my life. And so here's what she has to say about privilege. It's also really difficult for me to accept my privilege when I consider the ways in which I lack privilege, or the ways in which my privilege hasn't magically rescued me from a world of hurt. On my more difficult days, I'm not sure what's more a pain in my ass, being black or being a woman. I'm happy to be both of these things, but the world keeps intervening. There are all kinds of infuriating reminders of my place in the world. Random people questioning me in the parking lot at work as if it's unfathomable that I'm a faculty member. Whispers of affirmative action when I achieve a career milestone I've busted my ass for. The persistence of lawmakers trying to legislate the female body. Street harassment. Strangers wanting to touch my hair. You know how it is. The ways in which I do not have privilege are significant, but I am lucky and successful. Any number of factors related to privilege have contributed to these circumstances. What I remind myself regularly is this: The acknowledgement of my privilege is not a denial of the ways I have been and am marginalized, the ways I have suffered. We tend to believe that accusations of privilege imply we have it easy, and because life is hard for nearly everyone, we resent hearing that. Of course we do. Look at white men when they are accused of having privilege. They tend to be immediately defensive, and at times, understandably so. They say, it's not my fault I'm a white man. They say, I'm working class. Or I'm insert other condition that discounts their privilege. Instead of simply accepting that, in this regard, yes, they benefit from certain privileges, others do not. To have privilege in one or more areas does not mean you are wholly privileged. To acknowledge privilege is not a denial of the ways you are marginalized, the ways you have suffered. Surrendering to the acceptance of privilege is difficult, but it is really all that is expected. So I think the privilege conversation is hard because it does make people feel defensive. It makes people feel like we're trying to tell them that they haven't suffered or that they aren't suffering, or that their lives are perfect, and that's not what privilege is about. I feel like I heard a quote that I could not find in my research, but it went something like, having privilege doesn't mean that you don't struggle. It means that you don't struggle because of your skin color, because of the way you look, because of your class. So your struggles are not related to your identity, essentially. So, and that can be true in one box and not true in another. Like a man can have privilege, but then he could also be gay and lack privilege in that area. So there's also a couple of great videos that I found about that explain privilege really well. I'm not going to do it justice. I write so much better than I talk. So many people have written about it and spoken about it in ways that are so accessible and understandable that I'm going to direct you to them. But it's just really something that I wanted to address and give you access to ways to thinking about it more, because I think it's a really important concept to understand, and I think it gets thrown around a lot in a way that allows people to just tune it out. But it shouldn't be tuned out. It should be really paid close attention to, because it's the thing that we need to address and think about more if we're going to dismantle patriarchy, racism, sexism, all of it. So do go and read some of that stuff and watch some of those videos. This has been today's episode of Shouty Shine. Oh, and just as a special note, in episode 13, I talked about literacy privilege and grammar snobbery, and I found a really great video that I added to that episode 13 thread that I think explains it really well in like packs and punch. So if you're still interested in hearing more about literacy privilege and grammar snobbery, then head back to that thread and do give that video a watch. So, shall we get on to some knitting content? Because that's what I do, I knit, you guys. And this is a knitting podcast. So I have one FO to share with you today, and that is a bag that I made. But I've already gifted that bag to my friend Cheryl, who just found my podcast last night. So hi Cheryl, if you're watching. So what I did was Steve and I were on a walk, and we did a little bit of video footage in the rainforest with the bag so that I could show it to you before I gave it to Cheryl, so that I didn't have to pull another gimme back like I did with Lisa. So I will insert that clip so you can see my latest project bag here. So here we have bag number 3. I'm showing this to you now because I didn't want to go to knit night and give it to the recipient and then have to take it back for tomorrow's filming. But it's my 3rd drawstring bag, and it's the smaller sock size. And this was sewn with 3 different fabrics, just a plain Jane one inside and then 2 on the outside. And it closes nicely. I'm thinking of getting some twill for the drawstrings because I don't know how much longer I want to make drawstrings for. They're a little bit fiddly. I do like how they turn out, but I think I'd like to experiment with some twill. Bag number 3. Yay! So that's a place that we typically go with the dogs. It's up over on the North Shore of Vancouver, along the Baden-Powell Trail, and it's one of my most favorite places to go. So yeah, but that's my only finished object. So in the whips section, whoa, a big crow just like flew towards our window. In the works in progress section, I have a couple things. So like I mentioned, we're doing a blanket blitz cal right now, and by we, I mean me and you. Me and you, we're a team. So that is running now from now until the end of May. All you have to do is knit with some of your scrappy yarn bits, make whatever you want with it, share it on Instagram, share it on Ravelry. I'll draw winners from both places, and they will be announced either at the end of May or the very beginning of June. I'm thinking probably beginning of June. I did some knitting on the train there and back, but I didn't let myself, maybe I should share Mina's shawl first. No. Okay, so I got 7 squares added to my blanket. So where was it? Last time you saw my blanket, this is what it looked like. This was all that it was. No, that's not true. Last time you saw my blanket, this is what it looked like. I had 9 squares. And now, dun, 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 I have 16 squares. And oh my goodness, I am loving it. So I got 7 whole squares added to my blanket. And it's squared off. And so one of the things I love about this project so much is that there are so many different ways to make this blanket. There's the size of your squares, there's the ways that you join your squares to each other, because I've seen people do that differently. There's the way that you do the center decrease you can do differently. There's the way you finish off the edging, you can do that differently. The way you weave in your ends, whether that's the way you actually weave them in, or if you do them as you go, or leave them all to the end. So there's just so many different ways that this blanket can speak to your personality and cater to your personality, which is what I love so much about it, because sometimes I'm doing it one way and then I see someone else's way and I'm like, ooh, I need to change the way I'm doing that because I love that. So I'll tell you a little bit about my blanket. I'm knitting it with 2.75? I can't remember if I'm doing 2.5 or 2.75 millimeters. I think it's 2.75. Which is just, there's no reason for that. It's the needle I had at the time. And I didn't even really realize that I was doing that. And I'm doing Kemper's, I can't remember what it's called, Kemper's Cozy Memory blanket recipe, which I'll link to in the show notes. And so hers is you cast on, anyway, it's 46 stitches total that you start with. So 23 on one side and 23 on another. And then you do, so then my decreases, so then I have a stitch marker in the center, and I decrease 2 on one side of the stitch marker by knitting 2 together, and then I move the stitch marker, and then I knit, and then I slip, slip, knit, and that's how I do the second decrease. But again, there's so many different ways that people are doing that. I started off by having good intentions of weaving in my ends as I went, and I did pretty good because all of those are woven in. These first 6 are woven in, and then I just kind of lost it. And I join my squares to each other by picking up the purl bumps. But I know that some people pick up between the purl bumps. I actually did that for one square. You can kind of see it here. But I didn't like how it made it bumpy and kind of messy, and I just didn't like how it looked. So I stopped doing that and went back to picking up the purl bumps. But now I think I'm going to possibly try from now on slipping the first stitch of every row, and then at the end of every row knitting through the back loop to make picking up easier for me and to make my edges cleaner. Because picking up the purl bump, while it can be easy sometimes, other times I just super struggle with it, and I get like this messy, stretched out look. Like right here, these all joined so clean. These edges are so clean and tight looking. Whereas here, like it's just so sloppy and stretched out. And I did it the same. So I'm hoping that maybe if I do that, slip the first stitch of every row, knit through the back loop at the end of every row, that will help me when I go to pick up, have a more consistent look to all my squares. And then apparently when you pick up through both loops of the slip stitch. So I think that's what I'm going to try for my next little bit. And that's the other thing I love too, is that I don't mind that now I'm switching methodologies in the middle of my blanket, because it's called a memories blanket, right? And so there's so many different ways that can come into play. Memory of the actual yarn that you're knitting with, memory of what you were doing while you were knitting with it, and a memory of different things you were learning about the blanket while you knit it. So I've got all of that happening because, like, you know, these are yarns from my projects. These are yarns that were given to me. I will remember knitting some of this on the train ride home from Portland with Emma on our trip. And then once I change my style of how I'm going to join the squares, I'll remember that I was learning something different. So I just love that this blanket is so layered and fun and complex and just full of personality. Oh, that's the other thing, the way it can speak to your personality is like the actual colors and the way you add your squares. Do you add them willy-nilly? Do you spend some real time planning it out? Do you only add a certain intensity of square yarn color? Do you add all the yarn colors? Like, there's just so many ways that you can adjust this for it to be a blanket that really speaks to your personality. And I'm loving having you guys get so excited about the cal too, because I get to see, like, you're posting stuff in that Blanket Blitz cal, and I'm like, hey, I had something to do with that. I'm inspiring people to knit on their blankets, and that's just so lovely for me. I mean, I know you'd be doing it anyways, but I know some people are like, it lit a fire under me, or I started a blanket because of you, or I got 7 squares on because of this cal. So that's been really fun too, and I'm getting lots of ideas for my own blanket. I do have one question. I love this trio here. So this is from my breathing space sweater that I'm not even done yet. And I'm wishing that I'd had this to pair with this on the breathing space sweater, because whatever it is, I love it. And whoever gave it to me So I was doing really well at keeping track of like keeping everything separate. So Wendy gave me this, Nancy gave me these, Diane gave me these, and keeping them separate so that I could remember as I put them in. And then one day I was going to somewhere and I thought I'd knit on my blanket, so I just threw a bunch of minis into my bag, and now it's all mixed up and I have no idea who gave me what. So this was one of the minis that was in there, and it's this one. And I love it, and I would love a whole skein of it. So if you gave this to me, it was wound in a big, fat, beautiful skein. I'm thinking it was about 10 grams. So I could give this to somebody to put into their blanket because I'm sure it's about 5 grams. But I think I'm going to selfishly keep it and eventually add another to my blanket. I'm not sure. Selfish, not selfish. Selfish, not selfish. I'm not sure, you guys, who's going to win. So yeah, but if you know what this is, and I showed it on Periscope today, and a couple of people thought maybe teacup, but then we decided no, it's not teacup by Hedgehog, I think. So if you gave this to me, identify yourself. Help me figure out what this is. I would love it. I would love to know. I love it so much. I would like to have more of it. And I think it just looks so nice with this. I can't remember what this is called, but it's by Mad Tosh. Yeah, and then I've decided that I'm not really going to keep track of the yarns in here. I'll know some of them, and some of them I just won't. The joy and the memory for me is going to come into play of trying to remember where, like the blanket invoking the memory of knitting it, and sometimes what I knit with each square. So these 3 right here are from my Tailwind shawl. Doop, doop, doop. Yes, but isn't it pretty? So pretty. So yeah, I will always square it off. And that's another way people are doing it differently. Some are just knitting one long row and then another long row. And some are doing like a stepped thing. Whereas I think I will always be squaring mine off like this. So this last one in the corner here is always the last one that I add. Love, love, love it. So yeah, I hope you guys are having lots of fun with it too. And I'm really enjoying seeing your projects, so please do keep sharing those. And that takes us to my next work in progress, which is Mina's shawl. And so I didn't let myself knit on this until I got to the edging of Mina's shawl. So I finally did. And I just think it looks so pretty with it. And so all of these stitch markers are for the lace portions, the lace repeats. And so I just know I'm always supposed to have a certain amount of stitches between each one, and then I can keep track and immediately know if I'm off, which is great because I already made a mistake. And I had to get in touch with Mina and say, what did I do and what do I do now? Because I knew if I had to rip back, I would be so discouraged, and I'm not sure if I would have gotten it done on time. And Mina had a really great solution, a simple solution that I should have been able to think of myself. So anyways, I was so grateful for her just being really gracious and patient with me. So I haven't fixed it yet, but once I fix it, I'm feeling that this edging is just going to fly, fly, fly. And I have until the 29th to finish this, at which time Mina is going to start and knit along with this pattern in conjunction with yarn from Nicole of Hue Loco. So definitely get in on that, you guys. You're going to want to make this shawl for sure. And Mina talks a lot more about it in her latest episode, and shows her finished shawl, which is beautiful. So yeah, I'm excited to finish this, and then I think I'm going to have to get my friend Joanna to block it because I don't have blocking things. All I've ever done to block is like stretch it out on a towel on my kitchen table. I don't have like anything big, and I don't have actual blockers. So I have a feeling this is going to need some actual profesh blocking. So I'm going to maybe send it home with my friend Joanna, who has all of that gear. Or maybe I just need to cave and get myself some. We'll see. But yeah, this is a really fun knit. I learned some skills that I didn't have before. I learned some stuff about myself that I didn't know. Stuff that I'm feeling pretty proud of. That I'm actually capable of more than I thought I was. That I'm more patient than I thought I was. And that I mess up just as much as I thought I would. And this is in my bag from Nancy. Thank you, Nancy. So that takes us to acquisitions. And I do have a couple because we work in Portland. So the first yarn store, well, I went to 3 yarn stores and I only got stuff from 2. The first yarn store was called Knit Pearl or Pearl Knit. And I was in there for a really long time, touching all the yarn. I especially settled on some Brooklyn tweed that I was going to get enough of some Brooklyn tweed shelter to make a shawl I've been eyeing up. But then I thought, you know what? I'm going to go check out the other 2 yarn stores first, see what my options are, because it was the one that was closest to our hotel. And then if I want, I can come back for the Brooklyn tweed. Because there's no Brooklyn tweed in the Lower Mainland. The only place that sells it nearby is in Victoria, which is on Vancouver Island. So that's a ferry ride away. So, I mean, I can get it, but I have to order it. So that's why I was thinking, maybe I should get some Brooklyn tweed. But I didn't end up doing that because the next store I went to was Dublin Bay Knitting. And oh my goodness, it is such a beautiful store. It's huge. It's got so much selection. It's laid out really well. And the woman in there was super friendly. And I got some solstice yarn, which is actually hand-dyed right in that store. So I didn't realize that because there was some pink that was like this. It was like variegated pink with like pink. So this is the next.
She never waits for me to leave.
I do. I always wait for you to leave. This is the first time I haven't waited for you to leave.
I'm leaving.
Bye. So this is what I picked up from Dublin Bay. It's solstice yarn in their DK base. And I learned that they dye it right in-house when I actually picked up this version, the same yarn in a pink color. It was beautiful pink, but they only had 1 skein of it. It was just like this. It was variegated where it had like these creamy undertones. And I just said, you don't happen to have 1 more of these in the back because I only needed 2 for the project I have in mind. And she said, no, but I could knit. I could dye it up for you because it's our stuff. And I was like, this is your stuff, and I picked it out, which I loved because I was trying to look for stuff that was local so that I could know that it's not something I could have gotten in Vancouver. And so when she said that, I was thinking, like right now you're gonna go dye some for me. It's gonna be ready by the time I leave, but my brain stopped me from saying that. And I said, no, that's okay. I'm only here until tomorrow morning. And she offered to send it to me, but I thought, you know what? I'm so drawn to pink. Everything I have is pink, which is not actually true now that I think about it. I don't have a lot of pink yarn. So I forced myself to sort of go out of my comfort zone because this is not out of my comfort zone. I love blue. And this is such a great, like it's nice and squishy. It's beautiful, vibrant color. And I think it's going to look nice on me. And this is going to be for the Windswept Shawl, Molly, Magical Molly, of a Homespun House podcast. Has a pattern called Windswept Shawl, and I have wanted to make this for a long time. It's been in my queue for a while. And I've actually had yarn that I had set aside to make that shawl, but when I saw this, I knew that I actually wanted to make it with this. So it's actually hard for me not to cast this on this weekend, but I have to focus. I have to focus on Mina's shawl and my blanket. So maybe when I finish Mina's shawl. No, because when I finish Mina's shawl, then I need to finish my Bradway shawl, and I need to keep working on my sweater. So Magical Molly's shawl will just have to wait. But isn't it pretty? Every time I looked at it, it made me so happy. Emma got some Pop Funko heads from Powell's. We went to Powell's every single day that we were there, which was 3 days. So we went to Powell's 3 times. Emma got some Pop Funko Harry Potter Pop Funkos, and every time she looked at them, she's like, Mom, every time I look at them or think about them, they just make me so happy. And I'm like, that's what my yarn is doing. I get it. So it was fun. We had so much fun. And so then the only other yarn that I got, I was really proud of myself because I really focused on what am I going to make, what am I going to use it for, and does it really sing to me? And this sings to me. And this next stuff I got from Pearl Fiber Arts, just down the street from Dublin Bay. And this is, okay, so I didn't tell you about this. This is, so it's called Alpen Rose DK. It's 100% superwash merino, 280 yards, and it's called Blue-Eyed Boy. And it was really reasonably priced. It was $26 a skein. And then this next stuff I got, look at how fun and pretty this is, you guys. This I think I'm going to make into a sockhead hat. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a sockhead hat. It is from shepherd's wool. Shepherd's wool, and the colorway is called Crazy. And it's from a Stonehenge fiber mill in East Jordan, Michigan. And it's 100% merino, not superwash. It's 2-plied from mill ends, creating a unique color blend. No 2 skeins are alike. She had 2 huge baskets of these, and they were all really fun and beautiful. Like lots of reds and yellows and purples and pinks and blues. So it was tricky for me to pick one that I really wanted. I had 3. I was like, oh, maybe I'll just get 3 because it's also only $12 for, doesn't say how much. Oh, so it's 230 yards, but it's definitely not 100. Well, I guess not definitely. I'm pretty sure it's not 100 grams. But I am almost certain I'm going to make a sockhead hat out of this. And it's this marled fun, and it's so squishy. Emma was really excited when she saw it, and then she went, Mom, that's pretty. And then she went, oh, Mom, because it is so squishy and soft. And this morning it was on the kitchen table, and the 3 of us were eating breakfast, and it was in the bag, and we were all just kind of quiet, and I plunked it down in the middle of the table, and I said, anyone having a bad day? Let me make it better. And it worked. It cheered us all up instantly. So I'm really excited to make this sockhead hat and see how it turns out. And the great thing is that I'm going back to Portland in August with my friend Robin. So if I love this, I can get some more. And I hope to also have knit with this by then, so that if I love it, I can get some more. And Portland has so many great yarn stores that I did not get to. I only did 3 of 5 billion. So there's a couple more that hopefully when I go back in August, because I think I'm going to be there for 5 days. It's for a conference. I'll be able to check out 1 or 2 more of them. So those are my acquisitions. And they make me so happy. I'm really, really pleased with what I got. I'm going to address one question today. Someone asked a question and I can't address it. Actually, I'm going to ask if you can address it. Does anyone know if you can do a Flegel heel on a cuff down sock? If you have the answer to that, please let me know. I had a viewer ask and I do not know the answer because I've never done a cuff down sock. And I was trying to picture, my brain just doesn't work like that. I don't know. I can't reverse rake things. So I honestly have no idea. I feel like you must be able to. So if anyone knows, please do be in touch. I don't have any Shan things this week. I just didn't prepare anything. And I feel like this is going to be a little bit of a longer episode. So no Shan things this week. So if you do have more questions, please go ask them in the Ravelry group. I do have some that I can answer. I just didn't prepare for it this week. I completely forgot about the two Shan things segment until right this second. My pod love this week goes out to a non-podcaster, but she has an Etsy shop. She has an Etsy shop and she's on Instagram. She has an Etsy shop and she's on Instagram. And her name is Natalie Sheldon. And you can find her on Instagram as Remembrances Pottery. You can find her on Periscope as Natalie Sheldon. And her Ravelry group is Remembrances Knits. And she, if you haven't guessed by her name, does pottery. But not just any pottery. It is the most beautiful pottery I have ever seen. And I have a friend who does pottery. So please don't tell her I said that. But Natalie, I really love your pottery. I have been drooling over your stuff on Instagram for months. I've been following you. I don't even remember how I found you. Probably someone else mentioned you and I stumbled upon you. And she just makes the most beautifully textured pottery. So she makes mugs, she makes buttons, she makes stitch markers, she makes yarn bowls, she makes vases. What am I missing? But it's not just, it's like it's like nothing I've ever seen before. She embosses like different prints on it. She's got like a tree theme. She just started making some sheep mugs. She showed one the other day on her Periscope that is so beautiful, and she made it for herself, and if it goes well, then she'll put some in her shop, and I'm going to be keeping a hawk eye on that because they're so cool. They're these sheep, and it's like this beautiful textured 3D mug. So absolutely, for sure, positively, no questions asked. Do not hesitate. Do not stop to collect $200. Go directly to her Instagram feed and check out all of her stuff because it is gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And the really fun thing is that I met her on Periscope for the first time yesterday and got to see her face. And she's just so fun and lovely. And she mentioned she's doing a button along. What is she calling it? A button. It's the RP. The hashtag is RP button cal. And that's where you just have to put a button on anything that you're knitting. So the details are in her Ravelry group. I'm not totally sure of the dates, but go check out her Ravelry group to find out the details of her button cal. So in order to kick off the button cal, she was having a button giveaway. And all you had to do was comment on her post and tag a friend. And I did, and I won some of her buttons. So I'm going to be getting some of her buttons in the mail, and they're so super adorable. So I'm going to have to find a way to use her buttons and put some buttons on something. So my new thing is going to be put a button on it. Forget the birds, put a button on it. So thanks, Natalie. I'm so excited to get those in the mail and show them to you guys. But yeah, in the meantime, definitely go check out. I cannot speak today. Definitely go check out her Etsy shop and check out her Instagram feed to see all of the yummy ceramic goodness that she creates. She is a phenomenal artist, and you won't be sorry that you did. Hi, Natalie. And that just leaves us with some reminders. So subscribe to YouTube, hit the like button below, that's the thumbs up, do that. Join the Rav group where you can ask me a question. I am low on cues, I've got a few, but I don't have too many. Tell us how you use Ravelry, there's a thread all about that, which I think I might do a bit of a curation of next week, just tell you some of the really cool ways people are using Ravelry. And then share your stash if you want to, how you're organizing it. We have a thread about stash organization for people who need help and inspiration, and for people who've got it nailed down and want to inspire the rest of us. And then there's also a thread where you can introduce yourself. And I read every single one of those. I have been horrible at responding lately, so I need to set aside some time to do that, because you guys deserve that. So come to the Rav group. Lots to do, lots to read, lots to learn there. Don't forget to join the Blanket Blitz Cal. Even if you just knit one square between now and the end of May, you're in. You are in. You can win something. So post on Instagram, post in the Ravelry group. Do what you're gonna do. If you haven't checked out the Silly Sing Gang hashtag on Instagram, do that. And if it inspires you to do your own Silly Sing Gang, Elise, I'm looking at you. Then do it. I would love to hear your horrible singing, because really there's not much horrible singing on there. It's all people who sing beautifully, with the exception of Scylla and I. Hi Scylla, I miss you. If you're a maker and donating to this cow, the Blanket Blitz cow, or a future soxcetera cow would bring you joy, then please be in touch. And I have had a couple people be in touch with me about donating to this cow. So once I've got those things in my hot little hands, I will share them with you to get you even more excited about being part of the Blanket Blitz cow. But also, if there's a future cow, if you're just like, I love your podcast, I want to be part of it, I don't care if it's for this one or next one, then just be in touch and we can arrange something, and that would be great, and that would bring me joy too. Don't forget to follow me on Periscope. I have been periscoping more, apparently, when I need to have a good cry. But other times when I just want to give you updates about what's going on in my knitterly life, or life in general. So if you follow me there, shannonfisher, and turn on your notifications, then you'll get a little bing bing, or whatever the sound is, when I come on. And you can go, need pep talk. No, I'm going to skip that one because she's probably going to cry. Ooh, added squares to sock blanket. Want to see that? Yes, I will join that. I would love to see you there. I would love to meet more of you. Please, can you have usernames that use your first name? Because that would make it so much easier for me. And we know it's all about me, right? No, you just have to remind me of your names if it's not a username that uses your name. Because I'm not good. My memory is just not what it used to be. I used to be able to memorize my 29 students' names in the first hour of having them in my classroom in September. I don't know how I did that. I don't know who that Shannon was, because it is not my strength anymore. So yeah, hopefully I'll see you on Periscope. And thank you for joining me here today and for muddling through some of it with me, because I had a little bit of trouble speaking today. And please do check out more about learning about privilege and what that means and how it can affect the way we carry ourselves in the world and help change the systematic junk that we have going on. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, And bye! Big love and squishy hugs!
Okay, you are not a bear.